Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday to you. I hope you are all doing well this lovely weekend. We had a little touch of fall and all of a sudden it's warm again. I've heard it's going to be warm all week and then maybe we'll get some fall back. So I hope you're enjoying your day. I want to thank you for being with Professor Slater on Tuesday night for your live virtual. Eric is my teaching partner and one of my dearest friends. He said that he really enjoyed the group, that he actually kept you a little long and wasn't able to get through all the questions that I had for you. But he said it was one of the best live virtual groups that he had had. So, of course, I was happy to hear that. He may be with you for the last live virtual as well. So, September 13th, my mother-in-law was rushed to the hospital by emergency, and I think I had already told you that my significant other, my husband, was out of town. All the kids were gone, so it fell on me to be with my mother-in-law and also with my 89-year-old mother, and as you can imagine, that was a lot. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. So I was at the hospital Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and luckily people covered for me at school. And then I got her home Saturday night, and she was sick again already by Sunday morning, and by Monday she had to go back by ambulance to the hospital, and she's been there all week. So that's why I wasn't with you on the live virtual on Tuesday, and why I may not be with you on the final live virtual. But I know that you are in great hands with Professor Slater, with Eric, and so I'm not worried about that at all. And I'm bringing this to your attention because I want to talk to you about my own professional learning community, because this class is about nurturing learning communities. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about what happened in my professional learning community as soon as this went down. So when my mother-in-law was rushed to the hospital by ambulance, my substitute teacher, who actually rents a room from us at our house, immediately got dressed and went to school to cover my classes without even asking if it was something that had to be done. He was just like, I'm going to cover your classes now, and he was gone. And immediately other people in my professional learning community, Eric and several others, jumped in to make sure that he had all the tools he needed to be able to take care of my class at a moment's notice. And then everybody in my professional learning community jumped in over the course of the rest of the day, Thursday and Friday, to make sure that everything was covered for me at school. My principal was arranging everything. He was calling to check on me to make sure that I was okay. Everybody was checking on me to make sure that I was okay, or if I needed help with my mom while I was with my significant other's mom. And that continued throughout the weekend, with people from my professional learning community calling to check on me, to let me know what I needed, bringing food to the home for my mom, bringing flowers for my mother-in-law, and basically nurturing me and making sure that I was going to be okay. And then when I had to go back to the hospital with my mother-in-law, the same thing happened again. And with this time, it was my professional learning community at Concordia, where Eric immediately jumped in to take care of my live virtual. Dr. Charlemagne called me to find out if there was anything Concordia could do to help me. And basically everybody just made sure that I didn't have to worry about any of these things while I was so concerned about my mother-in-law's health. And that type of value in a professional learning community. And when you watch the video for this week about building professional learning communities and building global communities, one of the things that the professor talks about in that, about how professional learning communities are not about connectivity or technology or looking at data scores. I mean, all of those things, of course, we want to have a common goal at what we're doing, but they're about building strong and trusting relationships. And Joaquin, you talked about that in your discussion board, how your PLC has been together for over 6 years and you've been able to build these amazing relationships. And because of all of these people and these relationships that I have with them, I know that I'm protected within my PLC. And because I feel protected in my PLC and because I feel nurtured, nobody has made me to feel like I'm dropping the ball or I'm letting anybody down. They're all just picking up the slack for me, knowing that when I come back, I will come back strong and rested and protected. and willing to be part of my professional learning community again. And so the number one thing you have to take away from nurturing learning communities is building these strong, trusting relationships with people that have a common goal. That is the number one thing that you have to take away from this class when you're nurturing a learning community, is strong, trusted relationships. So I think that when you watch the video for this week about global communities, and there's a lot of breakdown about PLCs and networks and global communities, I think you're going to have a really good, strong understanding of what you need to do with your PLC template work and your PLC group, and it's kind of going to give you a stronger vision of where to move forward. I know some of you had some questions about that, and like I said, I think once you watch that 30-minute video, you're really going to understand, on a deeper level, what we're looking for in a PLC. In your discussion boards, you guys brought up some really great thoughts and some struggles. Some of you talked about how time was just the most important thing with your PLC, and how sometimes you thought that there was this time that was, carved out for you guys to meet, and then it was used for something else. And we do really have to think about, how are we going to protect that time together, those PLCs? How are we going to protect our PLC from being infiltrated on with something else that maybe the principal or somebody deems more important, or the district deems more important? How are we going to make that work? Monica had brought up struggles with one teacher that was falling behind in common assessments. And Monica, I gave you some food for thought in your actual discussion board comments. But that's something that you have to, when you're nurturing a learning community, you have to look at what's going on with that one person that's causing the rest of the team to fall behind. Is it something like, my team's not falling behind right now, but say they were, based on what was going on. Is it something related to my personal life that they can step in and help me with? Is it an illness that the teacher might be dealing through, or a hardship in that way? Is it a feeling that they're being pushed too hard by the PLC or the district to make certain curricular timelines that they feel won't benefit their students, that they're being rushed through something? Is the teacher struggling with the curriculum, or maybe a hard group of students? And once you've kind of figured out, what may be going on with the teacher, then it comes down to, how do you approach this person? Because if you don't have a strong, trusting relationship with this person, it's not going to work, and it's going to push your PLC, back, because this person is then going to feel attacked, or an outsider to the group, and it's going to be harder to get them to buy in ever to your PLC. So when you're addressing people, you also have to decide, is there going to be one person that speaks to this person for the group? Is this person good at communication? Do they have fabulous emotional intelligence and an ability for empathy? Are they going to be able to take ego out of the picture and talk to this person in a way where they don't come off like a know-it-all or above this person while they're trying to work through this issue? And I mean, these are the things. Nurturing a PLC is not an easy thing to do. You often have clashes in personalities, and Sang, you had brought that up about how you felt that a lot of the disagreements with the choir directors were related to the fact that you don't know each other. And everybody that's in this class knows that sometimes when you meet somebody and you're having a conversation with them based on their tone, or maybe a gesture or something they say, you're like, I can't figure out where this person's coming from. And you may read something wrong. We do it in emails and text messages all the time because we don't have facial cues. But you can do the same thing when you don't know someone, which then comes back to that whole idea that you guys were talking about, and that Joaquin had brought up, that you have to have these strong, trusting, professional relationships. And the more you're together and the more you get to know someone, the easier it is to build and craft this nurtured PLC. And I forget which one of you talked about it, and I don't want to pull up the screen and lose you, but there was somebody in the discussion board had talked about, they wanted to be able to have time for data assessment, and they, haven't had time for data assessment. And once again, to get there, you're going to have to make sure that everybody is a committed group of individuals that are all looking towards this common goal. They want to spend this time doing this data assessment, to see next steps and where we go. And it's not easy to make everybody feel valued in a PLC. And we also know that in many districts, there are people in your PLCs that were just put in your PLCs and don't necessarily have that common goal, so how do you work around that? So those are things to think about as you're crafting your own PLC. And like I said, when you watch this video this week about global communities, it talks about all the different communities, including PLCs, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. And I want you to specifically focus on, at the very last part of the video, and I'm pulling it up for you right now. There we go. Okay, so there's 3 big ideas that I definitely want you to come away with. The first one, the professional learning community model flows from the assumption that the core mission of formal education is not simply to ensure that students are taught, but to ensure that they learn. This simple shift from a focus on teaching to a focus on learning has profound implications for schools. And I think that's what some of you, based on your discussion board information, are struggling with, because it sounds like you do have specific timelines for curriculum and assessments. And if you have people that may be behind for certain reasons, or may feel that students need to learn, not just be taught something and move on, then you're going to have to figure out in your professional learning community how you're going to address that. The big idea number 2, educators who are building a professional learning community recognize that they must work together to achieve their collective purpose of learning for all. Therefore, they create structures to promote a collaborative culture. And the only way you can promote a collaborative culture is by getting to know people and be together and spend time together, and then find ways to overcome those personalities that may conflict. We all know, and we say this to the kids all the time when they do group work, you're always going to have people that are difficult to work with and people that are easy to work with. The key is to figuring out how to work with somebody who is difficult to you. Maybe you're going to have to do opposite action. Maybe you're not able to do opposite action. Maybe you have to bring higher powers into the meeting so that people behave better. So those are things to consider when you're creating a collaborative culture. And the big idea number 3, professional learning communities judge their effectiveness on a basis of results. Working together to improve student achievement becomes the routine work of everyone in the school. Every teacher team participates in an ongoing process of identifying student achievement, establishing a goal to improve, working together to achieve that goal, and providing periodic evidence. So then you have to look at the goals set forth by your principal in your school, and then the ones you choose to focus on in your professional learning community. Are you going to be focused on test assessment? Are you going to be focused on lowering the D and F ratio in students? Are you going to be focused on linked learning and CTE and how you're going to implement that into your curriculum? Are you going to be focused on student belonging and how students are connected to their school through pride, through clubs, through sports, through SLC activities? So you have to decide what you want to focus on. Maybe you're only going to choose 1 or 2 goals instead of all 4 goals, or whatever goals your principal or your district or your SLC or PLC has come up with. So the more you have a focus on what you want to achieve, and the more you are able as a collaborative team to take small steps forward and show evidence of that growth periodically, the better chance you're going to have of nurturing your PLC. So I'm going to stop there today, and I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you were okay this week without me and with Professor Slater. And if you've submitted any emails to me, I'm going to go ahead and get to those today now that I am home from the hospital. And let's see what else. Oh, all grades have been updated. And I will be looking over some of your PLC work over the next couple days. So make sure you check your grade again, because I might add some notes to your PLCs. information that you just sent me that you just submitted. Okay? So once again, have a wonderful Sunday, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.